Thank you so much for inviting me to write this chapter and presenting this chapter here today. I'm very much looking forward to your feedback, and it will all be incorporated for the final version. So this is going to be about non-cognitive abilities and the impact this has. Let me see if the impact this has on retirement behaviors. And this is joint work with Gianpaolo Parisa. To motivate, maybe it's a bit unnecessary given this audience, is that it's very important to study retirement readiness of individuals. And many countries see that individuals are simply not ready to retire. There's not enough wealth buffer that they have accumulated. This is data from the Federal Reserve Board. And looking at people that are 60 plus, so those that also don't have that much time to adjust their plans anymore, you see, yes, 87% has any retirement savings, but it does actually mean that 13% do not have retirement savings. Then when asked, are these retirement savings on track according to your plan? Actually 50% no, even those that don't have the time to adjust so much anymore. So what we're going to do in this paper is we're going to look at the role of non-cognitive abilities. You might know this by other terms such as soft abilities, personality traits, character skills, all different names for the same thing. Examples here are conscientiousness, emotional stability, grit, locus of control. When I say non-cognitive abilities, I mean abilities different from cognitive abilities, such as coming from education, knowledge, financial literacy, numeracy. But I don't actually mean devoid of cognition. I mean abilities different from what we classically think as cognitive abilities. So what is now the idea we're going to explore? We're going to say, okay, we have non-cognitive abilities, and this influences a lot of things that are relevant for retirement readiness. So income and education, which is not going to be the focus of this presentation, but I want to mention that that is one channel. Then we have savings, we have investment choices, and planning that are going to influence retirement readiness. And I'm going to particularly focus on those last three. Really on financial choices is going to be the focus. Now the measurement that I'm going to use is similar as in the economics literature, that is largely used in the economics literature, which is the big 5 personality traits. So Heckman, Pinto, and Savelyev state that the most influential taxonomy for measuring non-cognitive abilities is the big 5 personality traits. Now this has originally been developed in psychology, but it has been adopted in economics for already several decades. We're going to focus on conscientiousness, as this has been seen as the most important for financial decisions. Now, what is conscientiousness? This is a tendency to be organized, practical, persistent, self-disciplined, and achievement-oriented. All traits that you can imagine are very important for making sound financial choices. There's also other measures out there, but that's not going to be the focus of this presentation. It's going to be in the chapter. Now we have 10 standard survey questions that are developed in Goldberg. And these are all self-reported surveys, self-reported measurements. They're asked to rate the extent to which they agree or disagree with statements like, do you pay attention to details? I am always careful and thorough in my work. I always meet deadlines. Then we're going to use factor analysis to extract one factor. Now, this is not directly showing how it relates to retirement readiness, but I want to illustrate how key these non-cognitive abilities are. Now, this is based on a paper that I have with Gianpaolo Parisa that was published a while back. But what we did here is that we looked at measures of conscientiousness and measures of emotional stability, one other of the big 5 personality trait, and we put people into 5 quintiles, so low, high. And then we see, okay, just looking at the raw data, is this important? And we find it's actually incredibly important for the propensity to be in financial distress. So what you see here, if you compare people with in the highest quintile of conscientiousness and in the highest quintile of emotional stability, you see about a 1% chance of being in financial distress. So a 1% chance with this measurement of actually being behind on your bills, like mortgage or rent bills or utility bills. If you compare this actually with those with low non-cognitive abilities, so in particular those in the lowest quintile of conscientiousness and those in the lowest quintile of emotional stability, you see a more than 10% probability of being in financial distress. So just already looking at the raw data, you see a tenfold difference, really showing how important it is to, of course, we look at cognitive abilities, but we go beyond that and really explore the importance of non-cognitive abilities in financial choices. Now, let's zoom a bit then more into choices that are specifically relevant for retirement. So we have here a table where we explore the relation between conscientiousness and, in column 1, financial wealth, in column 2, savings. So this is an indicator whether you save out of your income, and a propensity of unsecured debt. We add here control variables because you might be concerned, well, there might be correlations between cognitive abilities and non-cognitive abilities, which for sure is the case. Here we control for these potentially confounding effects, and we see very large effects of conscientiousness on these financial choices. In particular, those with high non-cognitive abilities have larger financial wealth buffers, have a higher propensity to save, and a lower propensity to have unsecured debt. So this shows that these choices are all choices that matter for the retirement readiness of individuals. Now, okay, we have now established this really matters for, let's say, the amount of money that they are saving for retirement. But what do they do with these savings? Because we all know leaving the equity premium on the table is incredibly costly. Whether you go just for riskless investments versus a risky investment, it really can influence your can double your retirement savings, if not more. Now, what we see here is that those with higher non-cognitive abilities are put a higher fraction of their financial wealth in equity. Now, this is something that we show here, but there's also other work that shows it's highly relevant for the propensity to participate in the stock market. So it doesn't only matter for the savings choices that they make, but also what they do with the savings is going to be very much impacted by these abilities. Now, one step back. Okay, you can make, we're looking at the choices that they are making, but actually making the correct choices is preceded by whether they're actually planning for retirement. So it's important to, once at a sort of regular frequency, to take stock. How much wealth have I accumulated? Am I on track? Are my estimates of the amount of income that I will need during retirement, is that still the case, or do I need to adjust this? So people need to analyze this, see, okay, am I on track? And if not, what can I do to get there? So making choices are, of course, a result from that. But before that is actually seeing how do these non-cognitive abilities relate to the propensity to actually do this planning. Now, what we have here is a measure for retirement planning ranging from 1 to 4. But 1 is where they hardly plan at all, and 4 is where they plan a lot for retirement. Now, what you can see, we have on the left-hand side those with low conscientiousness defined as below the median, high conscientiousness as above the median, and you see there's a larger propensity to plan a lot for retirement by those with high conscientiousness, and there's a lower propensity to not plan at all for those with higher non-cognitive abilities. So it matters for this planning propensity. What about the wish for autonomy, the wish for responsibility about your retirement decisions? You can imagine that those with higher conscientiousness hopefully are the ones that also desire more responsibility, because that then means that those with higher abilities also take advantage of that more flexibility that is given to them. What we do here is we look at the desired responsibility about their amount of retirement savings and the investments that they make with these retirement savings. And you see those with higher conscientiousness desire more responsibility, okay? Which is good news. It means that the flexibility that is being given to people is also most valued by those that are able to use that flexibility in a sound way. Now, as academics, we then like to think, how would we model this? Okay? So it's very interesting, but how would we put it in our models? What is sort of this underlying channel? And in the paper that I mentioned before with Gianpaolo Pariso, what we show is that non-cognitive abilities impact two things. Impacts the cost of effort. So those with lower non-cognitive abilities that perceive more costs to putting an effort, for instance, into their financial administration in those tasks. But also for 1 unit of effort being put in, they are more productive. So both of these channels seem to be going on, which tells us something about if we want to more formally incorporate this, modeling these for their cost of effort and productivity of effort might be a good direction to go. Now a bit about the origins of non-cognitive ability, because this tells us what can we do with policies. It's stable in adulthood, but don't despair. So it does seem to be that it's hard to impact this in adulthood. It is largely influenced by genetic endowments and early life experiences. So this means that we need to look earlier. James Heckman has a large agenda on this. He's done many interventions, early childhood interventions, trying to help disadvantaged youth. And this has been spanning for more than 5 decades. And he shows that it has an incredible influence on late in life outcomes to already at a very young age improve the non-cognitive abilities of children. And the effects span decades into adulthood. So this is the Heckman equation. So you invest, you develop these abilities, both cognitive and non-cognitive, and you sustain it in adulthood, and the gain is very large. His point is, for very little, you get a lot of bang for the buck for little investment. So to conclude, non-cognitive abilities are key for the financial wealth buffer of individuals, for their savings propensity, for the investment decisions that they made, and thereby really taking advantage of this equity premium. The planning propensity that they have, allowing them to take stock of what is going on and adjust accordingly, and thus, summing this up, the overall retirement readiness of individuals. What can we do? Well, we can foster these abilities in early childhood. In adulthood, this appears to be rather difficult. Thank you so much.